welcome to a digital presentation of our program series, Cooking Up History. We're thrilled to share this recipe in conversation with Chef Nico Albert, a self-taught chef, caterer, and student of traditional Indigenous cuisines. If you'd like to cook along with Chef Nico, the recipe for sumac crusted trout will be available on this page, as well as in the resources section of our website. We encourage you to share your dishes with us using the hashtag Smithsonian Food. Without further ado, Chef Nico Albert.
Hello, my name is Nico Albert. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, and I'm the executive chef and founder of Burning Cedar Indigenous Foods here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm here with you today to share a recipe with traditional ingredients. We're going to be making a sumac crusted trout with wilted greens and wild mushrooms. So the first thing that I have today is some fresh trout. One of the great things about trout is you've got the option of fishing for trout on your own, which Mother Nature has a supply of ingredients out there for you. And that's what our ancestors would use as supplies for to feed their people. And the other option, if you're not a fisherman, is to be able to go to the grocery store and find affordable lean protein like trout, which is very healthy. I also want to share this ingredient, sumac, that we're going to be using. And this is sumac right here. Now, the Cherokee people originally were from the Appalachian area of North America, and were removed to Oklahoma during the Trail of Tears. And so one thing about sumac is this is an ingredient that we were able to find in our homeland in the Southeast, and then we also have it here in Oklahoma. And sumac is one of my favorite ingredients to use for people that are new to foraging, like myself. And the reason for that is that it's very easy to recognize. This grows on kind of a low shrub. It's about as tall as I am. And these little berries are bright red right at the end of summer and the beginning of fall. These have been drying on the actual plant for a while. I like to get them a little bit sooner, but these are definitely going to work. They're going to have a good flavor. The flavor of sumac is sort of like an earthy, lemony flavor. So the really amazing thing that you can do is you can just rinse these and soak them in cold water overnight, and it creates kind of what we would call a sumac lemonade. It's really bright and tangy, but it also pairs really well with fish, which is what we're doing today. So all I would really do to process this is, after rinsing and allowing it to dry, you just rub the berries off, and you can kind of see them here. These little red berries, they have tiny hard seeds inside. So all I do is pulse these really quickly in a food processor to separate the red outside from the seed inside, and then sift it. And after sifting, you get a spice like this that you can use to season fish, chicken, a variety of things. Anything that you would use lemon with, you can use sumac for. So the other reason it's great for beginning foragers is a lot of people think of sumac and they think of poison sumac. There's no better way it's so easy to tell the difference between edible sumac and poison sumac, because this is bright red. Poison sumac will always be bright white. So there's really no mistaking. If it's red, you can go ahead. If it's white, just leave it alone. So I've got my trout here. I'm just going to sprinkle it pretty liberally with the sumac on the flesh side. And then I'm going to hit it with some salt and pepper. And while I'm doing that, I've had my cast iron skillet heating. I've got it on medium heat right now. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit because I want this thing to be really, really hot. Cast iron is an excellent tool to use in your kitchen because it lasts forever. It's practically unbreakable. And you can use really, really high heat in a cast iron skillet. So This heats up and you're going to get a really crispy skin. It's great for, searing all different kinds of meats, even vegetables too. If you're doing something like Brussels sprouts, you get a nice crispy brown, delicious outside if you get your skillet really, really hot. A lot of pans, like nonstick pans, really can't handle that kind of heat. So that's why I always use cast iron. And then the next step is I'm going to season the fish. I don't put oil in my pan because the pan is going to smoke. I really want to minimize the amount of oil that I'm using because I'm trying to do, kind of a light and healthy recipe. So using a light oil like sunflower oil is my favorite to use to cook with. It stands up to high heat, and I'm just going to season the fish itself to keep it from sticking. And we'll get a little bit on the skin too. I'm going to turn this over and season the skin side as well with salt and pepper. And now that our skillet is nice and hot, I'm going to start with this skin side down. So I'm just taking the fish, laying it directly in the pan. Turn the pan down a little bit. I'm just pressing the fish lightly to make sure that the skin has a really good contact with the surface of the pan. This is about a 14-inch cast iron skillet, which is perfect for fitting one whole trout here. Depending on how hungry you are, this will feed just you, or you can share it. One of the most important things about Indigenous food is sharing it with your loved ones. And the other thing is that we're talking about food and social justice in this series. One of the main things that we struggle with in Indian country is access to healthy food, access to our lands to forage for the foods that our ancestors ate, or to grow healthy foods for ourselves. That's what food sovereignty is about. And in my work with Burning Cedar Indigenous Foods, we try to work with our community to teach these recipes that have been lost for so long. And the reason that that's important is when we were removed to reservation lands, and this goes for the Cherokee people and for many other people all over Indian country, different tribes and communities, when they reached their reservation lands, they didn't have access to the healthy food that they grew up eating or that their ancestors ate, traditional foods. And that caused a dependence on the U.S. government. And the problem with that is those commodity foods that we grew up eating created all kinds of health problems all across Indian country. Diabetes, heart disease, obesity, these are problems that we are trying to solve in our communities. And the way that we do that is through food sovereignty, through returning ourselves to these traditional ways of eating. We can reverse the effects of eating the processed commodity foods that have caused all those health problems. So this goes for Indian country and for our country as a whole. Everyone in the world has moved so far toward eating these processed foods that it's doing incredible damage to our bodies. And these traditional foods like fresh caught fish or fresh foraged greens, mushrooms, vegetables, things that you can grow in your garden, the less steps you're taking between you and the food, the better the food is going to nourish your body. So when we talk about getting away from processed foods, you have to think about how many steps has this dish taken before it gets to me. A box of macaroni and cheese is not even cheese anymore. It's not even, flour anymore. It's gone so far from being wheat in a field to actually being a meal on a plate that the nutrition's completely gone. If you're eating something like wheat berries that you bought from Ramona Farms in Arizona, then those berries have not had anything done to them before they get to your plate. That means that they're full of the nutrition that they've had all along that you can nourish your body with, and you can make that connection with the food. That's how we heal our bodies, and that's how we heal our people. So I've got my trout sizzling away here, and we're ready to turn it. This is kind of the tricky part. You can you can get sloppy with it if you want to, if you're not comfortable. I just take the tongs and carefully, I'm going to take this spatula and loosen it a little bit. Like this, and we're going to cook it. And you can see I lost my tail, but that's okay. I wasn't going to eat him anyway. He's got really beautiful crispy skin, golden brown. And I'm going to press that again to make sure the skin makes contact with the pan. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my pan off. The residual heat in the cast iron is going to cook the flesh of the fish the rest of the way. And we're just going to give that a minute, and then we'll transfer it to our plate. And my favorite thing about this recipe, and most recipes that I try to do, is not only do we conserve water, but we conserve our time and energy by using one pan to create this whole meal. So when I take the fish out of the pan, I'm going to use the same pan that's got all of my really good sumac and salt and pepper and fish flavor in it. And I'm going to use the pan to cook my greens and my mushrooms. So this fish is about ready to go. Got my plate here. Just a little bit. And I'm just going to let my fish rest while we cook the greens. So I've still got a little bit of good fish flavor down in my pan. I'm going to scrape that up with my spatula just a little bit. And the greens I have here, I've got some baby kale, which is from a local farm called Scissortail Farms around here in Tulsa. And then I also have some forage greens. This is Asiatic daylily, dayflower. Dayflowers are not actually indigenous to North America. They came here from Asia, but they're everywhere now. And it grows as a weed. This actually grows in my front yard. And it tastes kind of like a sugar snap pea. It has a really sweet flavor when you pick the young shoots like this. And the flowers themselves are edible too and beautiful. So I'm going to add that in with my greens. And then we're also going to be using mushrooms. Now, I can't lie, I did not forage these mushrooms, but these are oyster mushrooms, which do grow around this area. I just wasn't able to find any. They're a little elusive. But if you do find mushrooms in the wild, you can eat them. And I'm going to go ahead and set this here and show you how. I'm going to tear these apart and just add them directly into my pan. I'm going to do just another tablespoon of oil in the pan. And we're going to turn it back on to medium. And I'm just going to tear these apart into kind of bite-sized chunks. In Cherokee, we have a mushroom called wishi, and it's very similar to oyster mushrooms. It's also known as a hen of the woods mushroom. And it's a special treat that comes out around the end of October. So at this point, I'm not going to find any out in the woods right now, but believe me, in a few weeks, I'm going to be out there looking for them. Packed with vitamins and nutrients, and right there in Mother Nature's grocery store, so you don't have to spend $15 a pound on mushrooms. You can go find them yourself. And this would be a very traditional ingredient for the Cherokee people to use. So I'm just tearing these apart. Mushrooms actually have a surprising amount of liquid in them. So they feel dry, but they have a lot of moisture in them. So when you put them in the pan, we're just going to let the heat work on them and let them release a little bit of that moisture. You can see my pan is still really hot even after turning it off for a little bit because this cast iron really retains that heat. Turn it up just a little bit. And what I'm wanting is these mushrooms are going to release their juice, and I'm going to use that moisture to scrape up all the flavor in the bottom of my pan. I'm kind of like doing my dishes in the dish while I'm cooking because all of the stuck-on stuff is flavor, and I'm going to keep it by using the moisture from the mushrooms to take it out of the pan. Also not going to have to season these too much because there is so much seasoning left in this pan, but I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. The salt will help draw that moisture out of the mushrooms as well and add some good flavor. More fresh ground pepper. And now that those are nice and golden, I'm going to add my greens. This looks like a lot of greens, but once you wilt it down, it's kind of going to disappear on you. That looks like about enough. And now that I've got my greens in there, I'm going to turn the pan off. Again, the cast iron skillet has so much residual heat in it. I don't want to over wilt my greens because these are baby greens, so it's not going to take much. So this is wilted down nicely. And it's just about there. Now I should mention when you're foraging for mushrooms, not all mushrooms are edible. In fact, most of them are not. So where sumac is kind of your entry-level foraging because it's so easy to tell the difference between poison sumac and edible sumac, and it's easy to find and recognize, mushrooms are like the advanced level of foraging. Some are very easy to recognize, but there are lookalikes that can kind of get you in trouble. So definitely, if you want to learn about foraging mushrooms, there's a lot of great groups that you can join on social media, and it's even better if you can find an experienced mushroom forager to go with you. So we've got this all wilted down. I'm going to go ahead and plate this with my trout. We've got our nice crispy trout, and I'm going to set this right on top with it. We'll give this a garnish with some more of our beautiful little day flower, which is great, also used in salads and as a garnish. And now we have a sumac crusted trout with wilted greens and wild mushrooms. If you take one thing away from this video today, I hope that you've learned how easy and how fast it can be to make a healthy meal using traditional Indigenous ingredients. It's fun to get out and explore your surroundings and find some edibles in your neighborhood, but if you're not able to do that, it's just as easy to get to the grocery store and find some simple ingredients and make a healthy meal. Thank you so much for joining me today and hope to see you again. My name is Nico Albert, widow.
Thank you to Chef Nico for joining us today. And as a reminder, to view this recipe or any of our recipes from this year's Food History Weekend, please visit the Resources tab on our website.